Hi, this is a quick training video of the GrizCam Desktop software, and we're going to focus in on GrizEars for bioacoustics. So when you open the desktop application, this is what you see. You're seeing my view on my computer with a set of files that I'm using to annotate wolf howls. So this is the layout, and I'm going to show you how to add your own folder with WAV files in it. This particular folder has over 6,000 files in it, and you can scroll through the files here, switch between different files quickly, and then go about annotating them. But a quick overview of the overall application. Up here in the top right and in the top left is a way to change your views. We're looking at GrizEars. I can go to GrizEyes, which is our camera trap, video, and imagery annotation and management system. GrizNose, which is only for GrizCam devices. But we're going to focus in on GrizEars, and then there's a bunch of other menu items here. Probably the most important, if you have questions for us, is the About menu. It tells you what version you're running and what build of that version and computer you're running it on. So if you ever have a feature request or a bug request, you'll want to take note of what version you're running. And then you can send us requests for features or bugs, and you go to this particular screen, contact support, put a detailed description in, and if possible, attach an image of your screen where you might be having issues or you might want to see a new feature. So remember that. So I'm going to go back to GrizEars. And once again, you're looking at my set of files, but I'm going to take you through adding your own WAV files. So we support all sorts of ARUs like wildlife acoustics. And I'm going to go to a folder that's on my computer. So you may store your WAV files in different folders across your computer. I tend to put them in a folder grouped by a location that they were recorded at, and then subfolders that might span a month of data, 2 months, 3 months, however many months I want to look at. We're going to focus on 1 hour WAV files. That's typically if you're recording long-term like we do in the Greater Yellowstone. They're 1 hour recordings, 24 hours a day, or they might be dawn or dusk. And they're going for however long we recorded for. So I'm going to add a new audio folder. I have a folder on my computer with 3 days of recordings at a particular location. You go ahead and click on Add Audio Folder. Navigate to where that folder is on your computer. This one's called Fawn Lake. I click on it. I select the folder. And then it loads the audio files in this pane over here. I can move this pane around wherever I want to. I can lock it into the menu. I tend to leave it here. I can size it however I want. So I've got all those files, but I don't have spectrograms. You have to generate spectrograms, but you only have to generate them once. And then you can work with thousands and thousands of WAV files without waiting for them to load and generate a spectrogram. So the default mode is grayscale, and the FFT default for me is 4096. I can persist my settings however I want. I'm not going to get into what FFT means in the window size. You can hover over any element on the screen and pick them. But for wolves, the FFT of 4096 is a good one. Birds, you might want to be up at 512, and you'll get better resolution in those frequencies. So I'm at 4096. I click on Generate Spectrograms. And it starts to generate those spectrograms for the folder that I've added to all of my folders. So while that's generating, I'll just kind of walk you through the screen. This is the menu bar up at the top. So you add folders, you generate spectrograms, and then you work with them. You have 2 modes, grayscale and sensitive, which is a color mode. Different FFTs, you can change the height of the spectrogram viewer, depending upon the computer you're on. It might be a laptop. You might not have big of a screen. I'm working on a 48-inch monitor, so I want it as tall as it can be. There are auto modes for both gain and brightness and contrast, and this allows you to navigate between spectrograms and automatically generate the best brightness and contrast and gain for the files so that you don't have to mess with these settings. You can turn auto off and change them to whatever you want. Down here below the viewer are annotations. So we're annotating our audio files for different types of sounds, right? In my case, I'm annotating for wolves. You might be doing birds, you might be doing coyotes, you might be doing bison, whatever your animal of interest is. Every time I draw a box on the spectrogram, an annotation row is created. It has an ID. It lets you flag it for AI training if you want to. It has the start time and end time, the low and high frequency, a sound type that you can set up for yourselves. You might be tracking howls, bark howls, barks, all sorts of sound types. It allows you to be consistent with how you're annotating. There are different user-defined fields that you can enter, and there are notes. And for AI annotations, there's a confidence level. If you want to know any of the settings we're storing, you can click on this question mark and see all of the features that we can compute for your annotation. We have a database where we store all those, and you can export them and work with them separately. So the spectrograms were generated. I'm seeing a 1-hour spectrogram here. But I don't generally look for wolves by looking at a full 1-hour spectrogram. I zoom in to a particular area on the spectrogram. Now to zoom in, I can do it with a shortcut, which I'll show you in a bit, or a gear setting up here. But first, just let me draw a box. So I pick something on the screen, I draw a box, and an annotation ID is created with a sound type and these fields. I'm going to delete that for now. And I'm going to switch over to my folder. So every time you add an audio folder, it's added to this drop-down. I can show all of my folders. This can get very long. It could be 100 different folders that you want to work with, and you can quickly switch between them. Always remember that all of your folders that you've added and generated spectrograms for are in this list. So I switched over to all of my 6,000 plus wave files that I'm annotating wolves on, and I'm looking at a 1-hour view of the spectrogram. If I want to change that view, because generally I can see wolf howls right here in this area and over here, but generally I want to zoom into the frequency range of those wolves. So I can go into this gear icon and change how the spectrogram displays on my screen. I'm going to change the time window to 5 minutes. So I'm going to see 5-minute chunks of this wave file. I'm going to change the max frequency to 1500, min to 0. And I draw lines on the screen where I know the frequency ranges for this particular animal are, and that helps my eyes focus. I can change the style of cursor, and I can adjust how those auto modes work on my particular monitor. I'm going to hit save, boom. I now zoomed in, and now I can really see those howls. At the bottom, I have this little slider, and I can move all the way across the spectrogram. That's one way I can do it. I can also use shortcut keys, the arrow keys on my computer. I hit the forward arrow and I move forward 5 minutes. Hit it again, I move forward 5 minutes. I look at it and I keep moving across the spectrogram until I'm at the end. Okay, I can hit the home key and go back to the beginning. So that's how you navigate the spectrogram. Zoom into the part of the spectrogram that you're interested for the species you're looking at. At birds, you might be between 3,000 and 8,000 hertz with a time window of 2 minutes or 10 minutes. Now, I'm going to draw an annotation box. And in my case, I'm annotating individual howls. First thing I want to do is play the sound. So I move this little bar down at the bottom. You can see the red line moving. And wherever that is, if I hit the play button, which is up here, or I can hit the space bar, it's going to start playing the sound at that location. So we're about to hear the wolf. And then the great horned owl. I hit pause. I can drag this wherever I want, or I can drag this. So I'm going to annotate something. Here's a wolf howl. I draw a box around it. I let it go, and the row has been added here. Now I have sound types that I've created for the species I'm interested in. You can create your own. You click on the gear button next to sound type. You can create as many lists of sound types as you want. Here's my wolf list with all different types of sounds. I can make a particular sound type the default because I'm often annotating howls and I want to auto annotate with that particular sound type. I can require myself to use validation, meaning I can't type in something that isn't in that list or not. I hit save, and the list of sounds pop up, and I can start typing whatever I want. In this case, I know it's a howl. I start typing. I hit tab, and it auto-completes and moves to the next field. I can go back up and draw another box around this. Another annotation's been drawn. It auto defaulted to howl. I could change that if I wanted to. I go to another, select it, and I'm drawing the bounding boxes where I want to. You might draw over the harmonics of this particular wolf. And then I continue across the whole file and annotate it until I'm done. Down here, I can select any row and it's going to switch the box to whatever I'm looking for. I can put play. I can do what's called perchify this annotation, meaning I can use perch from Google to classify that sound. Opens up a 3D spectrogram, which allows me to look at this in even more detail. If I switch to full view mode, I can even zoom in on that particular howl and look at it in more detail. And then up here is perchify, and we'll look at that with birds in a second. It's really good at birds. It has a lot of different audio that it can classify. We'll see if it gets this wolf right. I can click on a region filter and narrow it down to the GPS coordinates of this file, which I'll show you in a second. I click on perchify. It's going to run Perch's classifier on this particular sound, and you can see it thinks it's a barred owl, but it also thinks it might be a gray wolf. And so not bad in terms of its AI classification. I can also delete annotations by clicking on that button. Now you'll notice in these files here, there's a GPS coordinate. Not all ARUs by default include the GPS coordinate. GrizCam does. Wildlife Acoustics puts it in the actual WAV file. If you want to add GPS to your files, you go up to the Tools menu, go to Add GPS to File Name, and it'll try to read the GPS that you set with your Wildlife Acoustics recorder or other recorder. Or you can just type in a latitude and longitude, hit Continue, and it'll add the GPS to your WAV files. I've already done it for this particular set of audio. The reason that's important is because if I go to the ARU map, which we're not going to talk a lot about, I can see all of my ARUs on one map and all of my annotations for those ARUs, and I can play them separately from the location that they were at. There are all sorts of features here you can play around with. That's why GPS is important. I can also create, I'm going to redrag this box. I can also create a video that I can share with others for educational purposes of the sound I'm interested in. So I click on the video icon. And I can play that sound and rotate it in 3D space. I can export the video. There's all sorts of cool little features you can do here. So it's just a freebie we've added in, especially for people who are trying to teach others about the sounds of the natural world. I can draw boxes as far across this annotation as I want. So if I wanted to annotate this entire howl sequence, I can drag it across the screen, let it go, and I might call this a howl sequence. So I can annotate however I want, right? You're trying to study animals, and maybe in this particular case, I want to see how often, what's the time distance between each howl that a wolf howls at for a particular period of time. All sorts of things you can do. I might want to annotate this whole file. And let's say I had finished annotating. The whole purpose of this application is to annotate quickly and get through all of your files. So I'm done with this particular file, and I can either check the complete box here. This is a way for me to know that I'm done. Or I can hit the Control Space shortcut and watch what happens. It moved to the next audio file. And you'll notice that the previous one, if I go back to it, the little asterisk is gone, meaning I'm done annotating this file. The other ones with the asterisk means I haven't completed annotating it. So I can go through these one by one, hit Control Space, move to the next, start annotating, finish that file, hit Control Space, move to the next. That's what we mean by annotating quickly to get through all of your files. Now I'm going to delete that. I'm going to move to this other one, which I didn't complete. I'm going to uncheck it. And I'm also truly not done with this one. So that gives you a sense of how to annotate. As I mentioned, the gear button lets you change different settings of how the spectrogram is displayed on the screen. And up here at the top, you can filter, you can type in anything in the file name to find one, maybe by date. And all of my annotations are in this drop-down box. So if I want to filter by, let's say, barks, I can select bark, and now I'm only seeing files that have barks in them. So I can select this. I can go down to my annotations, scroll down. Oh, there's a bark. I can select that, and I can go straight to the bark, hit the play bar, and hear the sound of that particular annotation. At the bottom are some different features we're not going to talk a lot about, but it's a way for you to use annotations that someone else has already done on the same WAV files. You can import those. So if I annotated all of these and you had my WAV files and I saved my annotations, you would get a file, you would import that file, and all of your annotations would show up on your WAV files that I had done on my computer. We also have a restore annotation backup. We know your annotations are important, and if something gets corrupted on your computer, you can go to the restore button and restore a previous set of annotations from a prior time period. There's also the ability to AI annotate. We provide a couple of wolf howl classifiers that you can pick from. You select it, you run the classifier, and you add the annotations, and it's about a 70% to 80% accuracy on finding wolves. You can run perch against all of your audio files and let perch classify. You'll get a lot of bird species classified, some other sounds like wolves or coyotes. And you can delete annotations, AI annotations as well. It's a good way to experiment with how good those classifiers are on your audio files. Your manual annotations, you delete manually. They're very valuable to you, and we don't allow a way to just delete them in bulk. There's a feature to add BirdNet detections. If you have BirdNet on your computer and you run BirdNet against your WAV files, it can create a CSV file that you can import and annotate all of your files with. So that's the basic features of the GrizCam Desktop to get you started in doing annotation. As I mentioned, if you have features, you can go to the support or bugs and send us information or email us at info@grizzlysystems.io. There's all sorts of tools and features in here that you can look at and play around with. There's also the shortcuts menu, and I highly recommend, if you want to get fast and efficient at annotating large data sets of audio, to look at these shortcuts. And there is a rhythm you get to when you're going through all of your WAV files, and you'll find that if you use these shortcut keys, you can get very good and proficient at annotating large data sets so that you can study the animals you're interested in. Thanks a bunch and have a great day.